The real issue is that Nintendo is not saying that your pals look like our Pokemon. They're saying that your game plays too much like our game, which is actually very, very stupid. The irony of Pokemon, who ripped off Dragon Quest ages ago and nobody batted an eye, all of a sudden crying that somebody is, quote, copying their mechanics. It's a bunch of bollocks for many reasons. Another one is that they can't go after the designs, so they trademarked the concept of Pokeballs.
What's going on, dudes? It's your boy Andy Matrix. I'm back in another video on Angry Guy's YouTube channel. So, Pokemon, aka Nintendo, is losing the battle with Pal World. Nintendo thought that they can be slick, you know? And also, I'm gonna be talking about another competitor called Anemo, who is also going to give Pokemon a run for their money. So Nintendo's probably going to try suing this other game too, because if they're willing to sue Pal World unapologetically and humiliate themselves, then, you know, they're probably going to humiliate every other freaking, you know, just every other game that looks similar to Pokemon, right? Guys, if you have not heard of me, I am Andy Matrix. I talk about anime, gaming, and Japanese culture. If you're into any of those things, make sure to follow me at Andy Matrix Gaming. It's my own YouTube channel. Click the link in the description. Follow Andy Matrix. I'm trying to reach 3,000 subscribers, and I was hoping you guys would help me reach that goal. Thank you very much if you decide to subscribe. And guys, make sure to follow Angry Guy on Rumble, because YouTube has become the censor station, and there's more freedom on Rumble. Angry Guy's uploading new videos over there, so go ahead and check it out. Click the link in the description and follow. And also, do not let Klaus Schwab and the elites tell you that you'll own nothing and be happy. Okay, invest into cryptocurrency, secure your digital future. Crypto is going to allow us to have options for trading, and so when the old digital future arrives, you have some type of security. And in the Crypto Academy course, you learn how to buy and sell crypto, learn how to day trade crypto, make a profit before everything becomes too expensive. Click the link in the description to get the Crypto Academy. Now, on with the show. So at first, Nintendo was suing Pal World for creatures that look similar to Pokemon. That's the whole, that was the whole reason. And I'll be honest, man, the first time I saw Pal World, when I saw the trailer back in 2024, I think it was, when I first saw the trailer, I was like, yo, these people copy straight out. This is like straight out of Pokemon. But it was a open world Pokemon type of game, which is something that people have been craving for the longest time. People have been asking for a open world Pokemon game. But Pal World, succeeded. Pal World did it much better than Nintendo with Pokemon Arceus. I think Pokemon Arceus didn't get that many good reviews. The graphics were kind of horrible in Pokemon Arceus. But anyways, however, now we found out that they're suing for patents, which I think is actually even worse. See, they're just making themselves look so bad. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Pal World, the developers of Pal World, they're right there from Japan. So I think this war, I believe, is happening right there in the motherland, right? Nintendo can sue Pal World for designs. Like, it's really hard to do that, but they can sue for gaming mechanics, or so I thought, right? Which, by the way, those gaming mechanics, for example, they're trying to sue for the mechanics, the patents of throwing a Pokeball, like the coding, the programming for it. But there's other games that do the same thing, similar things, right? So it's hard to sue for designs, but guess what? It's also hard to sue for coding in a video game program, because a little science, right? A little, I've taken coding classes before, as much as I hated them. But look, man, when you're a video game programmer, you're not just using one type of coding, because there's C#, C++, there's JavaScript, there's Python. People also use Python for programming, right? There's, what was it? What's that other one? Shoot, I forgot. There's like many programming, There's many programming languages to create video games. And I think Python is gonna be is a popular one that's been rising over the years. But it's mainly like what C++ and C sharp. I forgot. I forgot these freaking programming languages. But it's very hard to sue somebody because when you show them the code, every programmer codes a little bit different, even if the gaming mechanics look similar. There's more than one way to code out, let's say, somebody walking. Let's just say. You understand what I mean? You probably don't. You probably don't. Nintendo thought they could get away with this because, well, they think that they are all high and mighty. But hey, I brought in Mannix to share with us his thoughts on Nintendo basically losing to power at this point. Here we go.
How could Reggie do this to us? You were supposed to fight against the greedy, scummy corpos and not leave us with a literal Bowser. Oh yeah, oh my god, thanks for that, Reggie. See, Nintendo's anti-consumer practices are working really well. Because I tell you what, I will never be a consumer of them ever again. Hit the like button and subscribe, baby. We are breaking all kinds of records on this channel. You'd have to be a complete Nimrod to not join the channel and subscribe. Because if you don't, that means you are DSP, and I don't think you want to be DSP, do ya? Yeah, that's what I thought. See, welcome to another episode of Justification for Piracy, yarr, matey, because Nintendo is doing heinous again. What a surprise. It must be another Tuesday. See, Nintendo will pull out a board game they made in 1890 and come to the conclusion that they created the first board game, hence they should sue every company that makes board games. Listen, I'm never going to stop making videos about these companies being as anti-consumer as they can possibly be, because seeing a giant corpo losing to a smaller company and then resorting to underhanded tactics means, to quote Starship Troopers, it's afraid. Very afraid indeed. And ladies and gents, don't you think it's funny how family-friendly branded companies like Nintendo and Disney are so scummy about making sure that they're the only game in town? Let's be honest, both are as brain-dead and cowardly as each other. Because they're so deathly afraid of competition, they decide to stomp it out before it gets too popular. Which only shows how insanely pathetic they are. What am I talking about? Well, if you're unaware, ladies and gents, because I didn't cover this when this initially happened, Nintendo sued the creators of Power World. You probably already knew that, but you didn't know what's about to happen. Just to be clear, Nintendo isn't suing Power World for, quote, similar looking designs. It's for, quote, patents, which I would argue is way worse. The real issue is that Nintendo is not saying that your pals look like our Pokemon. They're saying that your game plays too much like our game, which is actually very, very stupid. The irony of Pokemon, who ripped off Dragon Quest ages ago and nobody batted an eye, all of a sudden crying that somebody is, quote, copying their mechanics. It's a bunch of bollocks for many reasons. Another one is that they can't go after the designs, so they trademark the concept of Pokeballs, or, quote, listen to this, a device that captures and stores creatures, and is suing for patent infringement of that instead. If this goes through, they'll have grounds to sue dozens of other games on the market. Because if Nintendo wins this lawsuit, that means that it will show other companies that they can patent all of their games and just sue other games into oblivion that even comes close to the, quote, patents. The whole lawsuit is a joke, honestly, and it just screams that we are hoping that peer pressure and the aura of being sued by a huge company like ours will make the opponent give up by default. Nah, that's not what's gonna happen. Another piece of irony to this is that Nintendo once got sued for copying game mechanics. Yeah, I know. The irony, goodness me, and won the right to exist in court. And now Nintendo is suing others for copying game mechanics. Oh my goodness, you live long enough to see yourself become the villain, alright. Listen, patenting a game mechanic feels like patenting a musical note. It makes completely no sense. It's pointlessly overbearing for no good apparent reason. It should never have been legal to patent gameplay mechanics in the first place. If you really think about it, game game mechanics are pretty straightforward. They're ordinary ideas. So not only should Nintendo lose the lawsuit, but it should bring awareness into making all patents in game mechanics null and void. I mean, think about how dumb this is. I mean, we won't ever see another game with a proper nemesis system unless they do another Shadow of Mordor game, which is a damn shame if you ask me. Like I said, if Nintendo wins, which I don't think they will, it will set a legal precedent for any form of new game. It will essentially mean that any kind of small nitpicking of how a game is similar to another will be grounds for a lawsuit. For example, imagine Bethesda just suing From Software because you can dual wield in Skyrim. Or what if From Software started suing anybody who makes a Souls-like game like Lies of P that has dodge rolls or parrying mechanics is complete and utter insanity. Or imagine Grand Theft Auto suing Truck Simulator because you can drive a vehicle.
Hey, really quick, guys, go ahead and check out Angry Guys Crypto Academy, where you can learn how to buy and sell cryptocurrency, learn how to day trade crypto, make a profit off of cryptocurrency. Angry Guys is also going to show you which are the top 10 or 20 cryptocurrencies that you can invest, the coins that are most likely to 10x or 20x to multiply, your investment in the future to fight against the old digital future. So go ahead and click the link in the description.
Hey guys, in a world pushing you to own nothing and be happy, crypto is your key to survival. Join Angry's Crypto Academy to master buying, selling, and trading crypto. Make huge profits and safeguard your wealth. Plus, discover the one crypto virtually no one is talking about, poised to create new millionaires in the upcoming bull run. The link is in the description of the video below. Go check it out now.
I think that we all knew that Nintendo was not going to win this lawsuit. They weren't going to win it. I think we all knew that, right? You can argue that Power World copied off Pokemon. However, as somebody that's, I'm an artist myself. I like to draw. I use Clip Studio Paint. I do artwork for people, right? And in the art world, there is a saying, and it goes like this. If you copy from one piece of art, then that is plagiarism. But if you copy from multiple pieces of art, then it is research. And that is what Power World pretty much did. That's what Power World did. They just looked at Pokemon. And you know what? Maybe they looked at Digimon too. They probably looked at some Digimon designs. And they were like, hey, let's take Pikachu and combine it with this other Pokemon or this other Digimon. Let's put them together to make a brand new creature. What do we get? What do we get? You see what I mean? You see what I mean? It's kind of hard to sue for these things, So now my question is, how is Nintendo going to deal with another competitor? It's a new competitor. It's called Anemo. Anemo is another creature capture type of game, similar to Pokemon, and it's also open world, similar to Power World. So I think Power World Power should sue Anemo, and then Nintendo should sue Power and Anemo. Man, that'll give YouTubers something to talk about. Man, holy crap. Yo, if that does happen, man, we have a lot of content, I tell you. Anyways. So there are many developers out there that are doing many things that Nintendo wish Pokemon had done. Because when you fail to satisfy a market, another group of people are going to come that will satisfy that market, and then they'll take your money. They'll take your customers. That's exactly what's happening. And look, Pokemon is still super popular. I'm not saying that Power World is going to become, super duper successful overnight, but it could happen. It could happen. There's Anemo, right? There's Anemo, there's Power World. Another one's probably going to show up out of nowhere. We're basically experiencing something similar to what happened in the 90s. No, in the 90s and early 2000s, which is Pokemon versus Digimon. Back then, if you grew up with Saturday morning cartoons, there was the battle between Pokemon and Digimon. But now it's a little different. Now it's video games, right? Now it's video games, and now we got some lawsuits going on. This is the adult version of Pokemon versus Digimon. Yeah. Let's go back to Manix.
These large companies like Nintendo and these other people will have a legal right to absolutely bury small developers with, quote, legal manipulation of competition before their game gets off the ground. If there's even an inkling of similarity. I mean, their lingo in the lawsuit makes me laugh. Capture a creature with a thrown object. Oh, I guess we can't use, a fishing rod or some kind of net to catch fish. Or a lasso whip in Red Dead 2 to capture alligators and horses. We can't do that because Nintendo owns the patent. Do you see how insane this is? I mean, Nintendo's gonna patent pushing a button next. I'm partly joking, but I'm partly not. I mean, let's just see how this goes. See, if only Nintendo could use this time and resources to come out with a good Pokemon game to compete with Power World, then we wouldn't be in this situation. It would bring them all the money that they want and make everybody happy, but they chose the cringe route. Oh my god, I'm so embarrassed for them. So look, there is a new update to this lawsuit. In a last-ditch effort to win the lawsuit, Nintendo is retroactively filing patents and then changing them mid-lawsuit. Like I said, they're very, very afraid. Nintendo is trying a legal Hail Mary to win floundering Power World lawsuit, says IP expert. Nintendo has revised the wording of one of their patents specified in the company's lawsuit against Power World. A survival game centered on collecting creatures. Florian Mueller, a legal expert on intellectual property, has described the move as a weird one and says it probably indicates that Nintendo is worried about the outcome of the case. Mueller was previously employed as a legal consultant to Blizzard. Ew, that's gross. He gave his thoughts on Nintendo's latest legal move in an article on Games Fry, explaining that Nintendo is employing unorthodox tactics because the case is struggling. Excellent. Litigants don't change a patent in the middle of an infringement case unless they feel the patent is at a fairly high risk of being deemed invalid in its original form. That doesn't mean they'll always lose, however, the way Nintendo has worded its new claims here is, to put it bluntly, weird and doesn't appear likely to solve Nintendo's problems with this dispute. You know, I gotta say, patent filing to sue a competitor is already bad enough, but changing the wording in a very general way is completely asinine and should be illegal. This should be thrown out right now. Because like he said, this never happens, especially if they're making the patent broader. The thing with Power World is that Nintendo has refused for decades to make an MMO Pokemon game, despite the huge demand from everybody else, but they are milking the franchise with no voice acting, old mechanics, bad animations, and the same games every time. Power World doing what Power World is doing is basically making them step up because their game is way better. When Power World released, it was essentially the type of game players have asked for a long time, and suddenly Nintendo, who are adverse to competition, steps in claiming that the game infringes on their IP. They are fighting tooth and nail to create something that could compete. Instead, they're just whining like babies. They didn't even file the patents until after the success of Power World. They waited to see if Power World was a successful rival, and when it was, they had a complete meltdown. They changed the patents to what the successful rival was doing, because their existing patent didn't cover the new version, which is them essentially saying, we don't want to make a better Pokemon game, we don't even want any competitors. Let's just use our incredibly inflated law team just like Disney and just sue every single person involved. Oh, and by the way, let's just copy and paste the next Pokemon game from our last one. That's the whole reason they're doing this. And like I said, the patents that Nintendo is erroneously updated to are so broad and vague that they could literally destroy the entire...
You know, Nintendo's arrogance is beyond belief. You know, pride always comes before the fall, and Nintendo's pride is crossing the line at this point. But also, they are also losing, you know, they're also desperate of losing what they already have. Little do they know that they have been shooting themselves in the foot since the day they announced the game key cards in the Nintendo Switch 2. They have been shooting themselves in the foot for a while now. You know, in so many ways, right? And it's inevitable. I think at this point, the Nintendo Switch 2 is just not going to be profitable, right? The Nintendo Switch 2 is not going to be profitable. Now, Pokemon is still going to be profitable, I do believe, because Pokemon is just a long franchise. It has Pokemon's fandom. They have an old fandom. They have millions of people that still follow Pokemon. So I don't think that's going to change, but If Nintendo ever falls, Pokemon might be taken by another company. I think that's what's going to happen. But, the problem with Nintendo is that they have chosen to control their fans instead of serving their fans. And that is going to be their downfall. And we are seeing it. Whatever your thoughts are, make sure to comment below, like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell for future notifications. Everybody, it's your boy, Andy Matrix. Godspeed.